well. The analysts are in this morning. It's Lakunle and Devoe. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, President Zibby. Good morning, Devoe. Good morning, everyone. Happy Democracy Day. It's been 25 years of interrupted civilian administration, sensitive civilian administration in Nigeria. I'm happy I saw this part of Nigeria.
All right.
Okay. Good morning, world. Morning, smooth. Zibby, Lakunle, Lagos. A cool demonstration of craze.
All right. Let's go on to the first headline. And this one is coming from Vanguard. June 12th, current challenges being used to impair democracy. And this is according to President Tinubu. Devo?
Right. For those who were awake, every Democracy Day, it used to be May 29th. It was shifted to June 12th in honor of the sacrifice of some of our great heroes like MK Abiola. You would always hear the president speak on that day. As Lakunle said, 25 years on since 1993, when an ultimate price was paid after an election that was referred to as the most free and fairest, but it was annulled because of the military regime at that time. Now, how many years on? The president, who did come on air around 7 o'clock this morning, and I think he went off around 7:20, did speak about the long history of heroes that had worked to bring about this democracy that we are enjoying. But I take my words back, because one would question, are we truly enjoying what democracy has to give? Because the president did speak, because what you have in this article is like an excerpt about the challenges that we're facing today that seem to impair the dividends of democracy, which some are taking advantage of. Now, what is important is that people must understand what a democracy is. And a democracy plainly is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what it essentially does is that instead of having the rule of one man or a few people, which you have in some countries in the world, which we've also experienced in Nigeria, you have the collective will of Nigerians determining how you are governed, and the rules of justice and the legal system. Now, many countries in the world have adopted democracies as a way of how they ruled, how they administer their countries. If we take it back, even in the days of the colonialists, at a point in time, kings or queens, monarchies used to rule, and I think it was King Henry who established the Magna Carta and said that he himself, as an individual, cannot be perfect. He is infallible. Therefore, it is better that he relies on the collective wisdom of wise men, and that's where the concept of Congress came forth. Now, bring it back to today. Many people, the only sense that democracy makes to them is the state of their welfare, the state of their being. And I'm saying this calmly because it's not just to scream and shout democracy, democracy, oh, we're past the military days. Even as much as a country, we have agreed that we will follow this path. Those who were alive then, during the military days and even before the military days, will tend to question whether the quality of life of the Nigerian citizen is better now than it was before. It's a debate actually left to people to confirm for themselves if their rights, which are enshrined in the Constitution, are better held up now than before. Because, there's so many things now that question that in terms of rights and freedom of association, rights and freedom of religion, rights and freedom of where to habit and abode, rights and freedom to life, rights and freedom to food, affordable food. Right now, our nation is blighted by immense poverty. We don't like to talk about it, but the truth is 75% of our country are below the poverty line. And that means that they cannot afford a meal a day. Okay, no matter the exchange rate, Nigerians are struggling. The wellness of a few people does not shine well on the dividends of democracy on the people. So the president recently changed the national anthem to arise from Orizo Conferences to Nigeria We Hail Thee. Of course, Nigeria is not democracy is not enshrined by national anthems. But if you take a look at the third verse in Nigeria We Hail Thee, you will see where it says that, O God of our creation, grant us this one request, that we have a land that no one is oppressed. That is from the current national anthem, Nigeria We Hail Thee. But there are all levels of oppression all around the country at this point in time. And the least to say is even media freedom, where we see a lot of media professionals being arrested without full justification or even given the opportunity to defend themselves. So the task, and I'm speaking because the president has spoken this morning. He reeled out almost 20 names of Nigerians who in the past had fought, and in some cases, some had laid down their lives for democracy. It shows us that democracies, as they say, freedom is not given. It is demanded, it is fought for. We must understand that even the current president was part of the fight in his days. Now he's a beneficiary of it. Likewise, none of us must ever give up on that fight. It's not just in Nigeria. You can see what's going on in America. You can see what's going on in Britain. You can see what's going on in India. You can see what's going on in Mali, in Niger, in what do you call it? In Guinea. You must understand that for your own welfare, you as a citizen must join hands to ensure that you put forward, you demand the type of governance that you believe works best for you and your family. That is what a democracy is. And I'm hoping Nigerians will wake up to this task and never give up on that eternal fight of building a better nation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Devoe. Let us know your thoughts. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. You can also tweet at smooth981. Moving on to Daily Trust. FG to expand waterways to 5,000 kilometers. Lakunle?
Right. Yeah, even though it's Democracy Day, it's also pleasing. This is probably the first time that I'm seeing the Honorable Minister of Marine and Blue Economy in the news since inauguration as a minister.
Does he exist?
So I said that's my first time. I did say the first time. So I assume it might have been, but it's the first time I'm seeing in the news. The news appears interesting. So what this says is that there are only 3,000 kilometers of our inland waterways that are navigable, and that they're going to increase it to 5,000. Guess what? The first thing I did when I saw these numbers was to go check what is the cumulative total length of all the rivers in Nigeria. Because of the time interval, I found the first 10 longest rivers in Nigeria. Cumulative total of those first 10 is a little bit over 10,000 kilometers. So we have more than I think about 213, I hope I'm correct, bodies of water in Nigeria that are inland, that are classified as part of our inland waterways. And the top 10 has over 10. So imagine the exact total number of the distances one may have to cover. This is inclusive of River Niger, River Benue, the Yedisram, Ogun River, Kaduna River, River Adejia, and so on and so forth. We know how economically viable some of these rivers are, what they've done to us. We also know today the devastation that some of these rivers causes. during the rainy season. Now, the minister is saying they're going to expand the waterways. I think that it's better we see you work than tell us what you will do. And we know when the Cameroon people open their dam, River Benue overshoots its banks and floods a lot of Nigerian communities. We know what the Oyo Dam in Okeogun in Oyo State does, all the way from there through Ogun to Lagos. Every time they open that dam, what is the plan? Let's see some action. Let's see some of these things get done. It appears pleasing to people who do transportation by air, by water. I've seen a video before. There's a particular place, I think it's in Adamawa or Yobe or between Benue and another state. I can't remember exactly where transporters will get to a particular spot. They'll drive their buses and cars onto rafts, and then they'll paddle it across the river to continue the journey to where they are headed. So we need some of these things to get done. We don't want to be hearing we will all the time. Sometimes it is not so exciting when everything here is we will. Let's hear some we have. Let's see them get done, right? So that these are part of the things that helps to improve the economic activities of people. It helps our agriculture. We can do farming around these rivers. We can do a lot of things. We're sure that our houses don't get flooded. People don't lose property. People don't lose lives when these things are done. We know that we have to do them. So let's just get them done. Let's stop talking about what we will do. Let's do the things that has to be done.
All right, thank you, Lakunle, for that. Let's look at some of the messages coming through. Cisco Delgado says, good morning. I think 70% of Nigerians being poverty-stricken is an assumption. I can categorically tell you that it's almost 90%. Do you have a fact, Cisco? Actually, according to the World Bank, the official figure, at least from 2023, last year, was actually 38.9%. And their projections, it's set to increase. We'll have to look out for those new figures. Let's see. Abbas says that Devoe can speak freely about his opinions on people in government without any harassment. It's a gain of democracy. And yes, the quality of life is better now than before. Well, Abbas, that would be relative. Unless people were not in Nigeria during the days of the former military leader Abacha, stove and absolute darkness and oppression of those years. How many media people were arrested or have been arrested? We don't need to paint pictures that are not true. Things can get better, and we truly hope they do, but we will not run along with the negativity alone. Fidelis says, after the cleanest elections held in 1993, 2023 was not the same. And the judiciary cannot be better as long as we have the same leaders. We are not running a democracy. Dan Okuda says, the president's speech did not meet my expectations. There's nothing inspiring in the speech. Adegboyega Adedeji says, today we mourn democracy. It's a sad tale of 25 years of believing that we are practicing democracy and there's nothing to show for it. But those who are heroes of the fight and struggles against military dictatorship themselves have become civilian dictators. And let's see. Okay, they have become anti-Protestant because they're in charge of the Commonwealth of Nations. Lives have become unbearable under them. We need redemption. All right, still listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Do stay with us. We'll take more headlines and, of course, more of your messages. Stay with us. Okay, luckily I see your message. So it's story 3. And Devoe, I've seen yours as well. So we're going to 7 next.
Hooray.
Hooray, hooray.
Devoe, that story 3 is very interesting. I want to attack Governor Sanko.
Yes, we'll get to it after
Let me wait for us to go on.
The VVF story.
Yeah, okay, that one too is another one.
All right, we're going on.
Yep, we're ready.
It's freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. Happy Democracy Day, Nigeria. 7:47. Keep your thoughts coming. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can tweet at Smooth981. And we're also streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth 98.1. And next headline comes from The Nation. First Lady seeks joint action to eradicate FGM. Devo?
Yes, Remy Tinubu, that's our amiable First Lady, was speaking at a joint forum between the United Nations Population Fund as well as UNICEF on the joint program on the elimination of FGM, that's female genital mutilation. And it is recognized as a violation internationally on human rights, whereby a girl's or a woman's genitals are altered or injured for non-medical reasons. Now, given the global statistics that were presented that day, out of the 230 million girls and women globally, about 68 million of them are at risk between the 2015 and 2030. And Nigeria being the third largest country experiencing this issue, has about 1/10 of the survivors worldwide. Now, the plan or the objective or the goal, as they say, was to deliver an end to this by 2030. So we have about 6 years left. Now, one of the ways that female genital mutilation harms women and girl children is that it causes pain, infections, urinary abnormalities, and complications during childbirth, as well as what some today we know as VVF, whereby they cannot control their bowel systems, especially when they get into sexual activity at very young ages. And this causes some level of post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. And as the First Lady puts it, it creates some high level of low esteem for these women and girl children. Now, I'm not just reading this because of the medical issues. Women, like I've always said, form literally, there's 60% women to 40% men in this nation. They are the real constituency. They are the real Nigerian citizens. And unfortunately, this fight is a bit tougher than even the international organizations can deal with. And I expect the First Lady to work with the civil society, that's the religious bodies and the non-governmental organizations, to address this, simply because in Nigeria, the genesis of female genital mutilation is enshrined in culture. This is where the problem is. It's not just something that happens. A lot of the times where you see it rampant, it is as a result of cultural understandings or cultural practices that have been practiced for hundreds of years. It's only recently that we begin to highlight the medical issues that come with it. And most times there are no infrastructure or things in place to actually address this. So it requires surgical removal from the hip, meaning civil society organizations, religious bodies must undergo some kind of reorientation, especially with traditional bodies and men, so that they understand, and also women, so they understand that these practices are counterproductive. I remember how a friend of mine during youth service, she told me how she was, what's the word? Not emasculated. She was circumcised. And what that meant was that they had clipped her genital parts simply because they felt if they did that, she would not be promiscuous as she grows up. Medically, what that does is she might not feel pain as a grown-up, but what it means is that she will not enjoy the sensation that comes with congenital activity. And this happens, it's rampant in so many places in the country. So I am encouraging the First Lady to pick up this task, because it's affecting the bulk of our girl, child, and women folk within the country. And it will take a while, because it's sitting squarely on a lot of cultural practice in this country. And we cannot have the largest constituency in this country being hampered by such activity.
All right, thank you, Devo, for that. Let's go on to the next headline. Lakunle, This one is for you, and it's from the Vanguard. Senate passes NDDC 2024 budgets.
Now, I'm seeking knowledge a little bit. Maybe listeners will help me out here a little bit. Okay, so why is the budget of NDDC being passed separate from the national budget that has been passed since when? September or October last year? That aside, maybe this is a misrepresentation of whatever it is. I want to assume that once the national budget is passed, all constituents of the budget is included of NDDC. Maybe what the Senate was doing here was just scrutinizing what the NDCC want to spend their money on. And they have also included, they have increased it to, it is now 1.9 trillion from 1.5 trillion. There's not much difference anyway. Yep. So that's the money NDCC has to spend. We've had the stories of how NDDC, that's the Niger Delta Development Commission, have spent over the last that's about 15 years now. I think NDDC came into being in 2007 or 2008 or thereabout during the Musa Yar'Adua government. I hope I'm correct. And if that is so, and we can see the spin-off because of this kind of monies that goes to the NDDC. Every region in Nigeria, every corner in Nigeria is also asking for a development commission. There is a Northeast Development Commission that has been approved by the Senate. The Southwest already has a bill in the House as we speak today, asking for a development commission as well. So I'm wondering why, if we have a national budget, we have the government, the states, we have the ministries, and then we are now creating development commissions again out of, why don't we concentrate all these monies in one place and spend it as one place? One would imagine that over the last 10 years, particular, the budgets that the NDDC has been approved for the NDDC, one would want to imagine that when you get to any of the Niger Delta states, everything will be perfect. But here we are, people in many of the Niger Delta regions, especially the riverine areas, still travel across the ocean in Paco boats with outboard engines. The places where there should be roads, the roads are terrible. The places where the hospitals are inaccessible. So when you ask yourself, if these monies are truly allocated to the NDDC, what have they been spending these monies on? So it's just another exercise that you just see. Also, don't forget, it's also the NDDC 4 years ago, the Honorable Senator off your mic matter. It was a matter of investigation in the House on the NDDC matter. So I'm so much circumspect about the monies that the commission gets, and we have not seen it being translated into development on ground. So what's the point in having this commission? What's the point in giving all these monies? I think that the Senate should be looking at how they can harmonize the spending, and why we need to justify why we need to create this commission in the first instance, because it is not translating to the development we are supposed to get from it. Don't also forget, the same Niger Delta has a Ministry of Niger Delta, and all of them are concentrated on doing the same thing, developing the infrastructure of the Niger Delta region, which is a thing that we should not even be talking about at all. The Niger Delta region should be one of the most developed areas in Nigeria based on many other things that this story is not even part of, right? But when you hear all this money being thrown at it and you don't see it being translated to development on the ground, you are worried. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lakunle, for that. Let's go on to the next headline. And this one comes from Punch. Lagos urges caution as cholera kills 560 hospitalized. Devoe?
Yes, the Lagos State Commissioner of Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, was speaking recently about extreme vigilance or heightened vigilance to be taken, especially with the rise of cholera-like cases. And in this instance, 60 have been identified, hospital admissions, with about 4 people who have died from extreme dehydration. And then he mentioned that this alert is being investigated because there could have been possible water contamination sources in some different locations in Lagos, including Lagos Island, Lekki, etc. And what he was saying that with the recent rains, there have been cases of severe vomiting, watery stool, urban slums, and crowded areas with poor sanitation where people stand high risk of getting contaminated. And especially where you have poor water treatment and sanitation. So what he mentioned was that symptoms of this, so that people know, or where you have watery diarrhea, vomiting, rapid dehydration, muscle cramps, fever, and sometimes people who are collapsing, they need to be taken to local clinical places. And treatment options for rehydration, and this is very important, is the use of ORS, that's oral rehydration salts. I know many people must have forgotten how Nigeria was able to bring cholera down to almost an exclusion levels many years in the past with the use of ORT, whereby you mix salt, sugar, and water and have a drink. And also the practice of good hygiene. I think since COVID, many have literally forgotten or abandoned some of those. If you remember them, I can't remember the word that we used to use to refer to those hygiene practices whereby, you said what?
Preventive measures like coughing to your
Yes,
hand,
those
wash your
preventive
hands.
measures,
Yes.
like washing your hands back from front side to the back side because germs can lie on them, ensuring that you close your mouth whenever you cough. And if you must cough, you cough in a direction that's where people are not, because these diseases are transmittable. And also boiling meats and protein properly to ensure that any contamination would be properly addressed. And the most important was how we treat our refuse. In terms of not just even refuse, but in some locations, people do not have proper septic tanks. So you have feces and all forms of things lying about. These are present dangers that the Lagos Ministry of Health is saying needs to be properly attended to, or else we may have a resurgence of cholera, which is a deadly disease within our residencies.
Lakunle, do you want to add something to that? Lakunle?
Okay, so quickly, this is the time of the year again, rainy season. You go to a lot of places, rain falls, and the water is stagnated on the roads, and people wade through the water. Guess what? Just before the rain came, somebody had openly defecated in that same water. And so you can imagine all the places where we most likely can come in contact with this disease. It's not just in our homes, on the road where we pass every day, in the buses where we see, because somebody who is waded in that water will enter the bus and sit next to you, the water draining from his feet or shoes. So there's so much to worry about. And I sense this kind of people, the caveat emptor thing in this notice that's been sent by Lagos State government, that you are on your own. It is you contact at your own risk. What's happening when enforcing our laws about open defecation, about how we handle our wastes, and so on and so forth? It's good, of course, because I know, of course, when you get to the hospital, you get treated for free, most likely in Lagos. But the thing about it is that we need to be at that point where prevention should not be a seasonal thing. It should be permanent, even when there is no rain, even when there is no risk. We should continue to remind ourselves of these things. There should be public sensitizations of the things that can cost us more money that we can avoid. That what's the name of this disease we are talking about again?
Cholera.
Cholera is preventable. We should not be worrying about the treatment. We should worry more about the prevention. Public sensitization, radios, believe you me, at least 50% of Lagos people listen to radios, one radio station or the other, every day. This thing should be there every day for people to know. It should be in our psyche. That's where I think that we can help and stop this problem.
All right, thank you, Lakunle. Ajayi via WhatsApp says, it's democracy day today, but unfortunately, democracy is yet to be instituted in the country as government continues to subjugate the masses with harsh policies without their input. Democracy is when the people are in control of their political and economic affairs with government supervision. Abbas says, the NDDC's budget has always been passed separately for so long. The 255 billion naira budget of 2015 was also passed outside the national budget, though one doesn't know what impact it has on the people of the Niger Delta. Joyce says, this nation is becoming a joke to think that so much money is still being wasted on the same NDDC. What is wrong with the government? NDDC, can't we do anything to stop this? And AB Bozimo says, the same Niger Delta is feeding the entire nation because of mismanagement by the misleaders of Nigeria. So please don't begrudge them all they are due, considering the environmental destruction ongoing there. The question should not be what does the NDDC need all the money for, but what is the rest of the entire country doing to carry its own weight? Ibrahim Zakari says, Ibrahim, this is a very long message and we are out of time. But thank you for your messages. Thank you for listening. And special thanks to our analysts, Lakunle and Devoe, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'd like to debate this with Ozimo, but no time.
You know what? AB always says, agree, disagree, reach out to me on social media at AB Bozimo across all platforms. I'm sure you both have a healthy debate.
I'll look for him.
All right. Devoe?
All right. A cool demonstration of Chris. Bye.
We will
Okay.
see you around.
Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.